Hey everybody, welcome to this week's episode of Palm Tree Sports Radio. My name is Corey Pujols, your host, and as always, it is brought to you and powered by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. I'm so glad to have you guys on this week after missing last week. I'll get into the reason for that, guys. But again, I'm glad to have you here. We got a lot to talk about in the world of sports, a lot of going on in the NFL. Bucks didn't play today. They had a bye week. They needed it. But the other two teams did play. We'll talk about what happened with the Jaguars and what happened with the Fins and why these two teams are on completely different trajectories. We will then get into college football, talk about the big win that the Gators had over LSU. I can't wait to get into detail about that, guys. The Noles also had a bye week this past week, but they did get their behinds kicked against Notre Dame the week before. We'll talk about that. And the Canes suffering their first loss of the season. What happened there? All that and more on this week's episode of Palm Tree Sports Radio. Keep it locked here for some more NHL, NBA, and as well as MLS action, guys. As soon as we get into the show this evening, thank you for joining me here on Palm Tree Sports Radio, brought to you by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to this week's episode of Palm Tree Sports Radio. My name is Corey Pujols, your host, and as always, it is brought to you and powered by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Happy Sunday, everybody. It's a pleasure to see you guys and to be able to bring you guys this content today. I do apologize for missing last week, guys. This week has been a complete train wreck. I don't know if it was because of the full moon, the super moon, if any of you guys saw it. It was very, very big here in the Southeast. But beautiful still nonetheless. But you guys know how it is. I think when a full moon happens, the wolves start howling, the witches start doing what they do, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it was a very, very hellacious week. Unfortunately, I suffered a death in my family this past Monday, and it's been absolutely very hard to deal with, to be completely honest with you. But I have to admit, being able to do the show right now is definitely going to be a huge positive distraction, and yet a positive distraction we had this week for sports in general. If you take away last week, what took place, this week was actually pretty substantial, I would say, for the state of Florida. But yeah, just it's been an extremely rough week at work with the family and whatnot. So I appreciate you guys for having patience with me in the human factor of life. But we are here, and I'm here. I'm ready to get started. I do apologize beforehand for any technical difficulties we may have with our social media and my banners, but I will still get you guys that information. It just won't be populated on the screen as it normally is, but I will get that fixed. We will get that fixed and be right back on top of everything next week, guys. But for this week's episode, of course, we're going to dance around the NFL, talk about what happened there. The Buccaneers had a bye week this week, so luckily they didn't have anything to worry about as far as losing a game to referees. But we'll get into that, what took place with the Chiefs game and the 49ers game, and talk about why those two games did not go the Bucs' way. And it wasn't just the referees. I just want to make sure that I put that information out there, that the Buccaneers did everything they could have done to win those games. From a player standpoint, that is. I can't say the same for the coaching. The Jaguars, they're just in a whale of trouble, if you will. I can't really articulate what it must feel like to be in Jacksonville right now, but what I can tell you is I remember being there as a franchise with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers throughout the year, so I completely understand the feelings that the Jaguars are happening, and obviously during the offseason there's going to have to be a lot of changes, and I think it's probably going to start with the coaching staff. So, so that's something we'll get into as well. The Miami Dolphins are able to get back on track today, 34-19 victory over the Raiders. We're going to talk about that and why that's monumental for them moving into the last 6-7 weeks of the season. So that's what we're going to talk about for the NFL. College football was a very substantial day yesterday. The Gators were able to pull up an upset of LSU. We'll talk about that. The Noles did not have to play out a bye week, but Miami was upset by Georgia Tech. So we'll talk about what happened there. Miami Heat, Orlando Magic in full swing of basketball. Both teams suffering debilitating injuries, so we'll talk about that. The MLS is actually in a bit of shock right now as Miami's been knocked out of the playoffs, so we'll talk about that as well. And then to round things out, we do have some NHL action with both the Bolts and the Panthers playing decent at the moment. Panthers playing a lot better than the Bolts, but again, all that and so much more on this week's episode of Palm Tree Sports Radio. So first things first, let's talk about our social media platforms, guys. So on our social media platforms, the only banner that I have for this week, and this again will be rectified by next week, guys. I apologize for this, inconvenience, but at Palm Tree _IE, that's going to be the specific tag for the social media trends. So that's going to be Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, whatever the case may be for the direct channel. For the actual overall website, you guys are going to want to check out www.iesportsradio.com. That's going to be the umbrella on which all the other shows fall under, including my own show. So if you are looking for other shows like this one, that's going to be the website to check out. Of course, at IE Sports Radio is going to be where you're going to find us at for the umbrella as far as social media is concerned. And again, for the specific show is going to be Palm Tree. So if you're IE Sports Radio /Palm Tree is going to be how you find the direct link to Palm Tree Sports Radio, guys. And again, I will have the banners fixed by next week, so just looking forward to that in advance. Of course, IE Sports Radio /shop is going to be where you get all of your apparel, all your gear, hats, t-shirts. Today, I'm not going to lie, guys, I have on a t-shirt because I'm hot. I'm literally just burning up. I'd take it off if I could, but yeah, I'm not going to do that to you guys. Nonetheless, guys, that's pretty much it for the socials, guys. And then if you are looking for us on excuse me, if you're looking for the podcast, if you are looking for specifically IE Sports Radio podcast, it's going to be one of the ways that you can find it. You can see them pretty much everywhere on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Spreaker, Amazon Podcasts, Apple Podcasts is what I listen to the majority of on if I'm not on YouTube, guys. So those are going to be the places that you can find all of our shows, not just my own, but all the other shows from all the other cities, all the other states. And then, of course, for X, IG, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, at IE Sports Radio is the handle for the specific website, guys. Again, the banners I will get those separated if I can, so that way I can kind of tag them one at a time as I'm saying them, guys. But yeah, so that's it for socials. That's it for overview. Let's go ahead and get into our message from our sponsors, our two sponsors for this week, and from obviously moving forward every week. It seems like you got some pretty good sponsors, right? It's Planet Jerky, the beef jerky that's on a whole nother planet, you guys, and of course, Seal the Deal wax seals by our very own Cecilia B. And what they do is wonderful work. Obviously, without these sponsors, we wouldn't, be in such a position that we are to be able to bring you this content. So a huge thank you to them out there. And let's go ahead and get into a quick message from our sponsors. And as soon as we get back, we'll dive into everything that I have for you guys coming out of the state of Florida as far as sports is concerned. But keep it locked here for, again, a message from our sponsors, and we will start rolling in a matter of about 3 minutes. Okay, guys? So hang with us here at IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
IE Sports Radio fans, this show is brought to you by Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. Planet Jerky is the official jerky of the 2022 California League champion Lake Elsinore Storm, single A affiliate of the San Diego Padres. This all-brisket jerky has gluten-free options, contains no MSG, no sodium nitrate, is low in sugar, and high in protein. Go to their website at planetjerky.net and follow them on Instagram at Planet Jerky. Planet Jerky, the jerky that's on a whole other planet.
Hey there, IE Sports Radio fans. Be sure to check out our sponsor, Seal the Deal Wax Seals by Cecilia B. You just finished your very own wedding or baby shower invitations and you're looking for that extra special touch? Maybe you just wrote a letter to a relative or a friend and you want to add to their smile when they receive it. Then seal the deal with Cecilia's handmade sealing wax stamps for your invitations, letters, and gifts. You bring the deal, we'll bring the seal. You can find them on Instagram at sealthedeal_wax stamps and on Facebook, Seal the Deal Wax Seals.
Welcome back to Palm Tree Sports Radio, you guys. My name is Corey Pujols, your host, and as always, it is brought to you and powered by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Again, happy Sunday, everybody. Lot to get into, right? Lot to get into this week. So as I said before, guys, tough week. So if you guys are having a tough week too, so are we. There's another hurricane that they're not sure if it's going to hit us or not. Nobody knows. I don't think anybody cares at this point. I think we're just sick and tired of hurricanes down here. I think that we've been devastated enough. But Mother Nature has the motion that it has. I don't know any other way to say it. It's essentially what it is just a bunch of motion. And I can't really articulate why it's happening the way that it's happening. I mean, it is what it is at this point, guys. And here just hoping that these hurricanes are done with for the year and that we can just move on into the rest of this holiday season without it, guys. We are quietly approaching Thanksgiving's actually right around the corner, man. These last 2 months have kind of flown by, haven't they? October, November. I mean, we're already almost in December. It seems like whenever football gets here that the year just starts to really take off, right? But I do apologize, guys, like I said, for the technical difficulties. I actually left my mouse at work. I think it might have been work. I had to take the laptop for work earlier this week, ironically speaking, and I think that I left my mouse there, so I'm kind of doing it the old school way. But so bear with me, you guys, if I appear slow, but I am so thankful to have you guys here. So before we get into everything, let's just go ahead and pop into the chats. Let's talk about what we have going on in the conversation. T-Rod, what's up, my man? Always a pleasure to see you. Absolutely. Let's have a wonderful show. Let's do it. I'm glad to be here, and I'm glad that you guys are here with me. Ralph, thank you. It's always good to see you too, my man. I am super excited to talk to you guys about what's going on in the world of sports, especially after missing last week. But yeah, it's such a pleasure to be back, you guys. Yes, may my family member rest in everlasting peace. My condolences. Thank you so much, T-Rod. Thank you. It's devastating. It came out of left field. It was one of those things that you just didn't see happening. It was actually to one of my younger cousins. So I'm actually the oldest cousin on my mother's side of the family, and one of my younger cousins actually passed away tragically. Extremely heartbreaking. I had a moment. I broke down on Monday after I found out the information. I ended up not being able to work the whole day, and So I had my moment. I'm pretty sure I'm gonna have another one. The funeral's coming up this week, so I'm gonna show up there and just do what I can for my family and be there. I can't imagine how everybody else is feeling. I know it's devastating, and of course, we're not the only ones, losing family members right now. I know it's just a dense time in the world right now, especially with everything that's been going on. I know there are a lot of people that are just trying to stay afloat, and so are we. So, but it happens to us all. I'm trying to use this as a lesson to remind myself to be close to my family, to do the best that I can to cherish those. And we'll leave a little bit more on the back end of that for food for thought at the end of the show, guys. But okay, so let's continue on through the rest of the chat. Pop in the house. What's up, Dad? It's good to see you. Always good to see you, Dad. If you have anything to throw into the chat, go ahead and throw it in there. You already know. For those of you who do not know, my dad is my biggest supporter, and he's also my co-host on the show. Whenever I have my special guest co-host, it's always him. And so, shout out, Dad. Love you, man. Love you, love you, love you. Thanks, Ralph. Yeah, it's a heartbreaker. That's truly what it is, and I think that I'm only just now starting to really come to terms with it because I've been struggling with it for a few days. I think that's the only reason why I'm kind of handling it a little bit better now. Yeah. Absolutely. Many thanks to our sponsors. And of course, many thanks to our team, right? Because without our team, without every single one of us, Ralph, without T-Rod, without Larry, without Cecilia, without everybody who does what they do, we wouldn't be much of a team, but together we get a lot done. We get a lot accomplished. So, that's the biggest, that's the biggest and most important part right there. Absolutely. I agree, Dad. So it's great to be a Florida Gator. Absolutely. So we're going to talk about that, chat, guys. We're going to get into that in a few moments. If you guys missed it, huge monumental win for the Gators. So like I said, we'll get into that in a few minutes. And again, Dad, I agree. We are the best 5-5 team in the country. And we'll talk about why we are the best 5-5 team in the country and what that really means, right? Because let's be honest, the Gators, that's a 5-5 with an asterisk next to it, right? So we'll talk about that, why that's an asterisk. But okay, so enough. Let's go ahead and get into what's going on here. So first things first, Bucks, right? So best part about this week for the Bucks is that they did not have to play. Buccaneers did not have to play any football, which means they couldn't lose a game to the referees. So when I use that term, lose a game to the referees, I want to outline a couple of things, okay? The Buccaneers start this season 2-0, okay? So you start the season 2-0, and then right now they're 4-6 right now, okay? So you ask yourself, how do you go from 2-0 to 4-6? What happened, especially when you look at those first two victories? And one of the teams that we knocked off was Washington, which is one of the more prominent teams in the NFL right now, with the best young quarterback in the NFL right now. So a guy by the name of Jaden Daniels, who played at LSU. So this is a full circle moment for not just the Buccaneers, but for the Florida Gators. So we're going to talk about that as well. But so here's the reason why I say that, guys. So for those of you who pay attention to the NFL scoreboard, you guys saw the Buccaneers lose 4 games in a row. Okay. So we lost to the Ravens. Okay. 41-31, 41-21, 41, something like that. Okay. That was a true loss. For whatever reason, Lamar Jackson was Jesus Christ with the S on his chest. I mean, the guy was just absolutely walking on water. And I mean that not in a religious way. I mean that from the standpoint of he made no mistakes. Like, he did nothing wrong that game. I've always been a Lamar Jackson fan ever since he was in Louisville. Saw a little bit of his football in high school, as a matter of fact. But seeing him in Louisville was when I realized that he was special. The fact that he was number 5 or number 6 on the draft board during the year that he was drafted, and he's gone on to become the guy that he's become, a 2-time MVP, not to mention a guy that should have at least one Super Bowl under his belt right now. This guy is absolutely a phenomenal football player, and I love to watch him play as long as he's not playing against Tampa Bay. Now, here's the thing I'm going to complain about. Apparently, he's only that way when he plays against NFC teams, because he played against the Steelers today and they lost, okay? So the Steelers won that game like 18-16. Obviously, I'm not going to talk Pitt, but so what's going on with Lamar? Does he only play well against NFC teams, and then like it's a struggle if he has to play a division rival or the Chiefs or an AFC team? This is a really weird dilemma. That's something for you guys to take in consideration when you talk about that game. But nonetheless, he played flawless football in that victory over against Tampa Bay. Okay, so that is a true loss. That I count as just us going in there and not playing as well as the other team. Period. The end. There's nothing I can say about that. The Broncos lost earlier this year can be attributed to us not playing as a team. Broncos have a tremendous defense. They played tremendous football today, in fact. Pulled off just an absolute destruction of Atlanta, only allowing 9 points. So I look at that and I say, guys, the first game that we lost after that last win that we had was against Atlanta. Okay, so that win was an 8-point loss, I think it was. And that loss took place because, again, a lack of officiating, a fair officiating. The reason why I say that, guys, if you guys would just look at the penalties, just look, go to Google, type in Bucks football, and then let the games populate. You guys, everybody has done this before, and the games will populate. It'll populate 2 games that were last played and the game that's coming up next, okay? So then click more games. When you go look at more games, look at the Atlanta game and look at the Falcons, and then you tell me if that looks like the same team you just saw play against the Broncos today. The point that I'm making is this. There are teams in the NFL that receive a lot of help from officiating, and they're the same team statistically. Of those teams, a couple of them seem to always find success. Now, the Chiefs just lost their first game to the Bills in a wild ender right there. Josh Allen is for real. I've said this all year. Everybody knows I'm a huge Josh Allen fan. If you guys have been watching the show long enough, I've been riding his coattails, not coattails, but I've been following him, I guess you could say, since college, and I've basically just liked him even more as I've watched him develop in the NFL. So Josh Allen is for real, and it doesn't surprise me that the Bills are the first team to hand the Chiefs a defeat, but it should have been Tampa Bay. So you go back and look at that game and you say, what happened? Well, Tampa Bay Buccaneers lost that game 30-24, okay? It was a Monday night game. Historically, the Bucs don't play well on Monday night anyway. So that was the first thing that kind of had me a little, But if you guys watched the game, which was Monday night, so I assume most of you watched it, right? Because that's what we do. We watch our teams play on Sunday, and whatever the Monday night game is, we just watch because it's football, right? The Buccaneers had a chance to go for 2 after scoring a late touchdown with 25 seconds on the clock. And they opted to kick a field goal. Extra point. My apologies. Extra point. If Bruce Arians was head coach, we would have gone for 2 and we would have won the football game. You don't give Patrick Mahomes time. It doesn't matter how much time it is unless it's 3 seconds. If there's more than 3 seconds on the clock, I'm not giving Patrick Mahomes the light of day, which means I am going for 2 and saying you have to beat me in 25 seconds. Excuse me, I do apologize. I greatly apologize for that. So there's no way in hell that I am kicking a extra point against Patrick Mahomes. Okay? Excuse me, guys. Give me 1 second, okay? I apologize. I need to clear my throat. I need to go to a break real quick.
It's IE Sports Radio. It is your direct feed for all that is sports. It is Philly Sports Talk with Cash and Chris every Tuesday night right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Philly Sports Talk with Cash and Chris is the most comprehensive view on Philadelphia sports exclusively right here on IE Sports Radio. You know what it is, your direct feed for all that is sports. Tuesday night, IE Sports Radio, Philly Sports Talk with Cash and Chris.
All right, guys, we're back. I do apologize for that. That was an emergency. I needed to just breathe for a second because I was starting to get some air lodged in the back of my throat. But we're back at Palm Tree Sports Radio from an impromptu, intervention that was greatly needed. So I apologize for that. I'm so sorry, guys, but thank you so much for keeping it locked here. Now, to get back on track of what we were saying, long story short, if you're the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, you're playing against the Chiefs on Monday Night Football, you have a chance to take a 1-point lead with 25 seconds to go. The point is you go for 2 and you win that ball game, okay? If John Gruden, if Bruce Arians, if any of the great Bucs coaches in the past, perhaps minus Tony Dungy because he was very conservative offensively speaking, we would have gone for two. We would have won that game. You call your best 2-yard play in the huddle. You go for it. You get the ball to the best player. In my opinion, it's probably a fake double screen to Rashad White, either out into the field or behind a tight end that's coming over to block. This is something that we found a lot of success with via the running backs and the tight ends. We've run K. Doughton ran this play. If you guys remember, Cameron Brate, who used to play for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, he used to run that play a lot, right? So the significance behind that is that before the game-winning touchdown that the Chiefs scored, there were two penalties that weren't called. One was a false start, one was a hold. Both of those penalties would have pushed the Chiefs back. One of those penalties was on second down, would have made it second and long, putting them in third down and making them beg the question, hey, if they don't convert, do they kick the field goal? If they kick the field goal, do the Bucs win this game? There's a good chance that we do because our offense is humming. Our offense is absolutely phenomenal. Offense is not the problem here. It's defense that's the problem. And knowing that that's the case, knowing that defense is the problem, there's no reason why Todd Bowles should put the ball back in the Chiefs' hands for an opportunity for them to win the game, especially knowing that our secondary is performing as bad as they are. So that's the first problem with that game. The second problem is going to be with the 49ers game. So that game was last week's game, the game I didn't get to talk to you guys about. We lost that game 23-20. We go down 10-zip in the first half, start fighting and clawing our way back there. By the third game, it's third quarter, it's a very particularly tough battle to score points at this. So I say that because the 49ers kicker, Moody, I think his name was, he missed 3 kicks throughout this game. So that 23 could easily be a 32, right? But not only that, but the Buccaneers left a lot of points on the board when you really look at how they were playing, how they were performing, especially, again, defensively speaking. There were opportunities for interceptions. There were no points off of that fumble recovery oh God, who fumbled? I can't remember who it was that fumbled, but there was a turnover. The Buccaneers were not able to convert points on that. And so when I look at that, I say, okay, so those are some of the reasons why we lost that game. But then you also look, again, at the end of the game. The score is 20-20. Todd Bowles is a defensive-minded coach. And when your secondary is playing the way that the secondary is playing, as a defensive-minded coach, you have to say, okay, I don't have the tools necessary to win this game. I have to put the game on my offense. Your offense is the only thing working right now. So by you taking a defensive stance, by you playing and coaching so conservatively, you are actually taking away the best chance that you have to win the ball game. Yes, I get it. The percentage is low of you going for it on fourth down this close to midfield, of you calling this play because it's risky on third down, deciding that you have 2 downs to play to try and get the first down instead of 1. Yes, I get it. That's all risky. Bruce Arians used to say, no risk it, no risk it, no biscuit, right? So at the end of the day, if a man wants to get something that's never been got before, he might have to do something that's never been done before. That is a saying that is true in football as well. And I think that Todd Bowles has done a good job screwing his team over from a coaching's perspective. Defensively, we've been atrocious. Offensively, we look like we have Boy Wonder calling the plays. A lot of people ask the question, should Todd Bowles be under fire right now? Is he on the hot seat? Absolutely. And it's very simple as to the reason why. It's because over the last 2 years, last year and a half, I can't say 2 years yet, but last year and a half, he's been getting bailed out by his offense. Okay, yes, the offense didn't play well last year, but you also have to take consideration that was the first time Baker Mayfield and Dave Canellis hooked up together to start calling plays and trying to score balls or score touchdowns, throwing the football, okay? The running game was nowhere to be found last year. So this year we have a run game, and that is transforming this team. If you guys have watched the Buccaneers play, you've seen this. Bucky Irving is absolutely amazing. This guy is one of the best young running backs in the entire NFL right now. And if you guys have not seen him play, I'm telling you, go put on the tape, guys. Go check out the tape. So all that being said, the Buccaneers have lost 4 in a row after starting the season 2-0. Right now, the biggest difference between the two teams would be between this team and every other team that we've lost to, I should say, is going to be the coaching one and, of course, the officiating. And again, with fair officiating, I think the Buccaneers actually go 2-2 over those last 4 games. And I think that one of those games we just lose because of bad decision making. But realistically, I think we have a much better shot to be here at 6-4, 6-5-ish. Or 5-5-ish, somewhere around there if things had gone a little bit more fairly. Real quick dab over to the chat before we move over to the next team. Okay, so. Yeah, yes. Okay, so Larry, yes, good to see you, my man. I'm glad to have you in here. Chargers Bengals 14-6 mid-second quarter. Chargers playing really good football lately, so I think that's something that we have to pay attention to, especially now that the Chiefs suffered their first loss of the season to the Bills. Yes, Mike Evans should be go after. So, guys, if you didn't hear, Dad, you made a really, really good point. Mike Evans should be good to go after this bye week. He's been at practice. He's been stretching, warming up, doing the basic things. But he hasn't practiced a full practice yet, to my knowledge. That's the information that I have at the moment, but that it will change this week. That is basically what all signs are pointing to. So get ready for more Mike Evans news this week, guys. He should be good to play in this next game. Next game is going to be against the Giants. The Giants have a very bad record right now, so hopefully he can come back and kind of reestablish his footing against a team that's struggling right now and maybe get some of those yards back that he's been missing. Obviously, it looks like he's going to miss 1,000 yards for the first time in his career. That's a heartbreaking, that's a heartbreaking situation right there as a Buccaneers fan, but it is what it is. But then, all right, so let's get into that real quick. Let's go ahead and get into that. So the Giants right now, they're rocking a 2-8 record. Daniel Jones is absolutely terrible. I felt like he's been terrible since he started. The Giants are a poverty franchise right now. They're one of the bottom 3-4 teams in the NFL. They've gotten rid of the majority of their good players. The coaching is terrible. I could coach better with no sleep. So why am I saying that? Well, the Buccaneers need to win, right? So the Buccaneers face a very, very tough 4-game stretch, right? Like I said, we talked about it. So you talk about Atlanta, who's at the top of the NFC South. I don't think they're specifically a good team, but they're a top NFC South, okay? You have the Ravens, one of the best teams in the NFL. They just didn't play like it today. You had the 49ers. They just went to the Super Bowl, okay? So we can say that they're 5-5, but they've also been injured. They've also been dealing with a lot of other issues. Brandon Ayuk is an issue by himself. So, you get what I'm saying. Like, they, in a perfect world, this team is not 5-5. And then, of course, the Chiefs, who just won the Super Bowl last year, are previously undefeated before losing to the Bills today. The Buccaneers need to win. The Buccaneers need to build something on defense that they can carry through the rest of the season, and something that will help them. Something that will help them stop other teams from gaining momentum. So I've noticed that when the Buccaneers play football offensively again, they're able to snatch momentum back at a moment's notice. I mean, they may punt one drive, but the next drive after they go down, score a touchdown, they get points, they develop something, they find a pattern of success. The defense is unable to do that. The defense is basically just benefited from the other team's offense screwing up. That is not how you play defense, right? So Antoine Winfield Jr. has been nowhere to be found lately. Jordan Whitehead has been worse. The linebacking core doesn't exist. Levante David is aging. He's getting older, and we're starting to see that a little bit. The defensive line is the only thing that we have. Zion McCollum is the only cornerback that plays cornerback. The other guys, I don't even know what they're doing. I think they're just out there for a paycheck. Josh Hayes is, without the shadow of a doubt, one of the worst cornerbacks I've seen in the last 20 years. I don't know what to tell you guys. The guy just gets beat on every play. He got beat by the Chiefs. He got beat by the 49ers. Yeah, I get it. Those two teams just play in the Super Bowl. But if you want a paycheck, bro, if you want to call yourself an NFL level type cornerback, you've got to play better than that. And then for me, that's not it. Buccaneers did make a huge move. They got Mike Edwards off of waivers. So Mike Edwards, for those of you who remember, was one of the original gravediggers of this defense. He was one of the original ball hawks of this defense. We won a Super Bowl with Tom Brady. And he is also one of the few NFL players in NFL history to have 2 pick sixes in the same football game. So now that we have him back, we have our original rotation of safeties for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and I look forward to seeing how that pays dividends. I think that helps on the back end. So now we just have to worry about the mid level as far as cornerbacks and our linebackers is concerned. If Todd Bowles can get those boys into shape, we should be able to round out a couple of victories at least before the end of the season and put ourselves in position for at least a chance to make the playoffs. But I don't know. If the defense keeps playing this way, we don't make the playoffs. It's that simple, regardless of what teams we play moving forward. I know that our schedule gets a lot easier from this point out, starting with the Giants, but I don't want to speculate. I don't want to speculate, guys. So that's what's going on for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Like I said, bye week, Mike Edwards getting picked up off of waivers from Tennessee. 2 big deals. Next game versus the Giants, Sunday, November 24th, 1 p.m. Get ready for that ball game, guys. Jags and Fins. So Jags, this is an expansion team, but it feels like a team that should be up for purchase right now because I don't know what the Jaguars are doing. I don't know what the head coach Doug Peterson is doing. I don't know what really any of the coaches are doing. They can't do anything right. They can't stop a defense from doing, or an offense from doing what they want to do. They can't do anything on offense. For reference, Mac Jones started this game. He goes 17 of 24, 138 yards, 0 touchdowns, 1 interception. I don't know of any football league, including flag football, where that would be acceptable. Okay, so I don't see how it's acceptable right now for the Jaguars. They lose the game to the Lions 52-6. In fact, the headline for the game after the game said Lions break the scoreboard on the Jaguars. Now, that's embarrassing. That's embarrassing. If I ever heard anything like that, I think that I would seek therapy. Perhaps that's what they should do, is seek therapy over in Jacksonville. But Duval is struggling right now. Let's just be clear about it. They have no quarterback. They can't run the ball. They had 27 yards rushing from ETN on just under double-digit carries. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. Jaguar season has been over. Yes, the Lions, right? Probably the best team in the NFL besides the Bills. I never thought it was the Chiefs. I thought the Chiefs should have lost at least about 3 or 4 games so far this season. But that's neither here nor there. I thought Lions and the Bills were the 2 best teams in the NFL. I thought the Ravens were probably sitting at 3 after that. Well, now that they've lost to Pittsburgh, it seems like Pittsburgh is now taking control of the AFC North. I think that the Jaguars are just in a place right now where, like, even looking at those teams seems like out of their tax bracket, right? Like, the Jaguars have to find a way to find a way. If you guys remember hearing that terminology before, it was used in college football. It's actually used in a lot of college sports. You got to find a way to find a way. I think that Tony Romo said something to that effect when the Buccaneers played the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. You got to find a way to find a way. The Jaguars are probably going to fire their head coach after this season. They're probably going to get rid of a lot of coaching staff, especially when you look at 52 points from the Lions. Again, I know the Lions are a great football team, but you just can't allow that. Jared Goff threw for like 4 touchdowns and over 350 yards. So that means the secondary also is ineffective, and you can't stop the run. You can't stop the pass. You can't score on offense. You can't throw the ball. You can't run the ball. What can you do? That's really what we want to find out from Jacksonville. Duval, somebody could send a demo or some information out. I don't care, a Snapchat, something. Let us know what it is that you guys are going to do, because right now losing is it. That's all you guys are doing. And it looks like they're about to lose another one as they go see the Texans next week. That game's going to be Sunday, December 1st at 1 p.m. So they're going to get a chance to take a break for whatever it's worth. A lot of good a bye week does you when you have no direction, right? So again, they're going to go see the Texans. Texans are 6-4 right now. That's going to be a division game. I believe Texas are sitting atop the AFC South right now. It's probably the worst division in football, or one of the worst divisions. I mean, obviously you could argue the NFC South is worse, but Atlanta, Tampa Bay aren't bad. They're just not great. The Saints, they don't know who they are. They won today, but they don't know who they are. And Carolina's just, they need to sell their franchise too. I say all that to say this. Maybe the Jaguars win 1 or 2 more games this season, but I'm going to be 100% honest with you. They're all of but a lock for a top 5 pick, if not the number 1 pick in next year's NFL draft. If you're in Jacksonville, my heart goes out to you guys. I'm done with Jacksonville. I can't spend too much time on the negativity, because if I do, I'm going to start getting sad, and I don't need to be any more sad than I already am. Jacksonville, fix your product. Simple. And you fix it by getting rid of everybody that's in that front office, first things first, because you guys do not know how to make decisions, okay? You look at some of these teams that are poverty teams. Look at Tampa Bay, for example. That was one of the teams that used to be a poverty team. You look at the Buffalo Bills when New England had Tom Brady. Those guys couldn't do anything for 20 years. Now look at them, right? They're coming back with a vengeance, and they're collecting, right? Like they're collecting, like it's February or something. So, again, my heart goes out to everybody in Jacksonville right now, but Duval, fix your product, guys. Fix your freaking product. Miami's in a different area, okay? So you don't spend a lot of time on negativity. You spend more time on the positivity. Positivity right now is that Tua Tagovailoa has played extremely well since his return from injury. I've been terrified for this kid. I watched him in college. He was just an absolute phenomenal kid. He won a national championship as a freshman. And so I look at him and I say, the guy has it. He can do it. He needs to stay healthy, and he stayed healthy, and we're starting to see what happens as he stays healthy. So they were able to win their game against the Raiders today. 34-19 is the score of that ball game. Yes, the Raiders are rocking a 2-6 record. Yes, they're one of the worst teams in the NFL, but that's neither here or there. A win is a win, and for a team like Miami right now, who is still in position to make the playoffs, okay, they are trending upwards now. They're 4-6. Excuse me. So that win comes off the back of Tua's 28 of 36 for 288 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. 3 touchdowns, no interceptions sounds like a W to me any day of the week. The only time you lose those games is when the other guy throws 4 touchdowns and no interceptions, correct? Devon Achane goes off as well. He also played pretty well. He had a touchdown, and I think it was, how many yards rushing did he have? It was 80-something yards rushing. When I was watching the game, he was at 80-something yards rushing. So kid played phenomenal. Tyreek Hill is dealing with a wrist injury, you guys. He decided, though, that he's going to continue to play through the season without having surgery, because he realizes that if he has surgery, he's going to miss quite a few weeks. You're talking about it, probably about 6 weeks for that wrist surgery that he's talking about. And so I think that's probably – it might be the best move. It might not be, because you got to take consideration as a wide receiver, you use your hands to catch the ball. So it's going to be a lot harder for him to be as effective as he normally is. But don't forget, they have Jalen Waddle on that offense as well. So hopefully Miami can continue to put wins together. And they still have a great shot at the playoffs. Okay. They have a great shot at the playoffs, guys. Next game is going to be against the Patriots. That's a division game. Patriots rocking a 3-8 record. So they should be able to win that game Sunday, November 24th at 1 p.m. And again, that's why I said these two teams are trending in completely different areas, right? So you have this Jacksonville's team who has imploded on themselves last year and basically have never recovered. T-Law is obviously not the guy for them, so they're going to move on from him after this season. If they do keep him, it's out of a fit of loyalty or just them not being able to do anything else, but I fully suspect them to draft somebody else this year. But whereas Miami, as long as Tua can stay healthy, they're starting to return to that, big offensive threat that they were before. Albeit they're doing it a different way, they're still as good as they were back then. As long as Tua is that quarterback, this team has a chance. But he needs to stay healthy. Stay healthy, Tua, please. Good luck to Miami in that game. They're going to go to 5-6 if they win. 5-6 puts them one away from 500. 500 is where you want to be at or better right now. So they're trending upwards. They have a chance. Okay, they have a chance. I don't know. It doesn't get easier for them. They still got to see the Bills again. They still have to see. I think it's the Chargers they have to go see. The Chargers are playing really good football right now. So there's still a lot of work to be done for Miami, but they can do it. They're a dark horse for the playoff picture, but fingers crossed for Miami, guys. Good luck to them on their next game. Guys, let's go ahead and get to our second break of the evening, our first real break, not an impromptu break. But thank you so much for working with me through that break, guys. When we get back, we're going to talk NCAA football. We're going to talk NBA, NHL, and then we'll wrap it up what happened in the MLS. But keep it locked here at Palm Tree Sports Radio. My name is Corey Pujols, your host, and as always, is brought to you and powered by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports, guys. Be back in 2 minutes.
Hockey fans, I'm Adam Kernick.
And I'm Zach Puplis.
Together, we are the newest version of Hockey Talk on IE Sports Radio, The Neutral Zone.
Zone.
We love hockey, but we also know it's not everyone's first sport. So we want to make this show as much for new fans as for the diehards.
Whether you can name all the Swedes on the 08 Red Wings Stanley Cup team, or if you can't tell if Varlamov is a goalie or the latest trendy vodka, we're here to help. With facts, figures, and outrageous fans, we bring you all the hard-hitting hockey news you can handle, while still keeping it fun and on the rails. Well, mostly.
So tune in every week as we go around the hockey world, from college to Canada, the minors and the majors, and everywhere in between.
So bring your cellies.
And your one-timers.
You wicked wristas.
And be sure to protect your five-hole.
Catch the Neutral Zone every week on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
We promise not to pick on the Arizona Coyotes every episode.
Hey Yo, what's up? It's your man Bishop, the voice of This Is KC Sports, the show where we go over the Chiefs, the Royals, KC Current, Sporting KC, MU, and oh yeah, if we got time, we'll even throw in some of that KU stuff for my people on the 913 South. Come hang out with us every Sunday, 2 p.m. Central Standard Time on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hey guys, welcome back to IE Sports Radio's Palm Tree Sports Radio. My name is Corey Pujols, your host. And as I mentioned before, guys, now that we are back, we're going to talk some college football. We're going to talk about what's going on in the world of basketball, NHL, and MLS, guys. It's weird, though. It's really, really weird right now what's going on in college football, at least for the state of Florida. So the Gators pull off a massive upset against LSU. So it's great to be a Florida Gator, as my father said in the chat, guys. If any of you guys are also Gator fans, you guys probably watched that. It was a great game on both sides of the ball. Probably the most complete game that the Gators have played all season long. And I look forward to seeing that. And I say complete game because we actually played against a decent team. That 45-point victory that we had against Sanford earlier this year doesn't really count because it's Sanford, right? So like that's not a team we're worried about seeing in the playoffs later this year. But the Gators did a great job against LSU. If you guys remember a few weeks back, this was the game that I said that the Gators were going to probably win, and they did. I'm glad. I'm not a prophet, but I'm glad that that's the way that it turned out. I'm a huge LSU fan. For the record, guys, let me just go ahead and get something out of the mix. In college football, obviously we have our favorite team, but there's always teams that follow favorite teams. There's so many teams in college football, right? There's 130 teams, 150 teams in college football that play a full season of football. You're not just going to watch one team play. You're going to find other teams to play. And for myself, obviously the Gators would be number one, but other teams would include Texas, LSU, Penn State, and Oregon. Those are some of my favorite teams in all of college. I love watching those teams play. Whenever they play and the Gators aren't playing at the same time, those are the teams that I'm watching. And I say that to say that Oregon's ranked 1 right now, right? So obviously I watched them play a little bit of college football the other day. That was fun. It's not as fun as watching my Gators beat up on LSU. Even though I love LSU, it's not as fun as watching that. But the reason why it's a surprise is because the Gators had the toughest schedule in college football history. If you guys remember, we had to play Tennessee. We had to play Georgia. We had to play Texas. We had to play LSU. And next week we have to go play Ole Miss. Okay, so this is unheard of to have to play this many ranked teams inside the top 25 in a single season. Not to mention we opened the season against Miami, and then we had to play against Texas A&M. Okay, so it's a ton of tough games, but you did think that at some point the Gators were going to say, okay, there's no way in hell we're going to play all these good teams and not get better ourselves, and that's what the Gators were able to do. So let's get into it, right? So the Gators beat LSU 27-16. LSU drops to 6-4, eliminates them from playoff contention. This is not the first time that the Gators have done that to LSU. We've actually done that a couple years back. I don't say a couple years back. Actually, no, it's probably about 6 years ago now, 4 or 5 years ago. LSU and the Gators were playing both for a chance to put themselves in position to win their respective conferences, with LSU still having to play Alabama, I think it was, earlier that season. And had they beaten Alabama, I think they would have won the SEC West. This was back when Leonard Fournette was still playing for the LSU Tigers, but he did not play in that game. The Gators won that game by stuffing LSU on the final play of the game at the goal line in order for the Gators to win the SEC East, in fact. And that was the last time the Gators did win the SEC East, in fact. So this is not the first time this has happened between these two teams. If you guys didn't know, the Gators and LSU are eternal rivals. That means they play each other every year. These are the two teams from the respective East to the West that have to play each other. Obviously, there's other teams that have to do the same thing. But yeah, so when you take that into consideration, DJ Lagway's special, right? So there's that thought process that a few games ago we played Georgia, and that if DJ does not get injured, that the Gators win that game. I'm a firm believer in that. I don't think that's conspiracy or cope. I think that's 100% honest. When you look at DJ, you realize that he's somebody special. He's somebody that has pocket presence from a different dimension. This guy just knows how to get rid of the ball at the perfect time. There were so many times where he looked like he was going to get sacked, and he just flicks it for 20, 30, 40, whatever. It's a yardage, touchdowns. The guy has the ability to extend plays while staying in the pocket, okay? That is a commodity that you don't find amongst young quarterbacks, let alone NFL-ready quarterbacks. And I will use my very own Tom Brady as a perfect example. So if you guys remember what Tom used to do, when Tom felt enough pressure, he would just go down. Live to fight another day. Nothing wrong with that. DJ has the ability to feel that same, I'm about to get hit, but find the open receiver and then flick the ball to them. Because when you look at these throws, it doesn't look like there's much of a hassle or much of a struggle when he's releasing the ball. It's a zip. It's like he's throwing a baseball instead of a football. And that is an incredible skill to have. DJ Lagway is so very special, and I'm so very glad that he's here with the Florida Gators. I hope that he spends, as many years with us as he chooses and wants to, but as we can squeeze out of him, I think that we will be extremely successful next year, especially developing the way that he has this year. Like I said, if he stays in that game against Georgia, I fully believe that the Gators upset the Georgia Bulldogs in that game, especially when you look at how well our defense was playing. Defense played extremely well against LSU, only allowing 16 points. There's not a lot that I would change when I look at the coaching and the way that the plays were called, but realistically speaking, we're going to have to play better than we did against LSU, against Ole Miss, if we're going to have a chance. Ole Miss is a far better team, and they're not struggling with their identity as LSU was. So that game is going to be a good game, bro. But that game's going to come to you. That's going to be Saturday, November 23rd, 12 p.m. So that's going to be a early start time, actually, for us, which we haven't had that many. We haven't had as many as we normally have here at Florida this year. So that's going to be one of those 12 p.m. start times. Ole Miss is rocking an 8-2 record. That's good enough for ninth in the top 25 ranking. So this team still another stalwart SEC football team that the Gators are going to have to go out and play against. But after this W against LSU, I'm feeling like there's nothing we can't do. Right now, the sky is the limit for us right now. Of course, I think we can go in there and win that game. If we do win these next two games, I fully suspect that we beat Florida State, right? I fully suspect that we beat Florida State. Florida State's playing terrible. I'll talk about that in a second. But if we can find a way to win that game, that will put us at 7-5, which is just unheard of for what this team had to endure through when you look at the schedule and then you look at the injuries. At one point in time, guys, we had over 20 players on injury reserve. I'm going to say that one more time. At one point in time, I think it was 2 weeks ago, after the Georgia game, we had 20 players on injury reserve, okay? Could not play. 20 players, okay? So just take that in consideration, if you will. Elijah Badger goes off. He goes 6 receptions, 131 yards, including a touchdown. Almost had 2 touchdowns, but he came down at the one, was stopped short. Gators punched it in on the very next play. So super proud of this Gator team. Super proud of what they're able to accomplish on offense. Jaden Ball with the game-sealing 55-yard touchdown run against LSU, put the game away late. Super proud of them, guys. Can't say that enough. Super proud of this team. We needed that upset there at LSU. And because of it, for the record, for those of you who've been following some of the early recruiting news, the Gators were able to flip Tramel Jones from FSU. He decommitted from FSU Thursday and has since now pledged his commitment to the University of Florida after that game against LSU. Seeing what we have in DJ Lagway, seeing what we have in Billy Napier's ability to coach when he makes good decisions, is good enough to flip anybody at this point right now. And I think this team is trending up. I think that we are about to be in a position where we're starting to return to the prominence that set us apart in the early 2000s, in the late 1990s. The last bit of information for that game is that the Gators go 7 sacks. LSU only allowed 6 sacks all year long, so 7 sacks for the Gators is just absolutely phenomenal. Good job, boys. But yeah, so that's what's set to go on. Again, Gators Ole Miss Saturday, November 23rd, 12 p.m. start time for that game. Excuse me. So that's it for the Gators, guys. Moving on to the Noles. So the Noles, they had a bye week. They needed the bye week, but I don't think it matters. This is the same direction that the Jaguars are headed in right now. They have no identity of football. They don't have much of anything to speak of. They've got 1 win on the season, 9 losses. FSU just needs to get to this offseason and worry about their commits and worry about getting some fresh bodies in here and a fresh just set of legs, everything, a fresh direction, a fresh identity, the whole 9 yards. This team is dead in the water as we speak. I don't see them winning either of their last 2 games. I lied. They're going to win against Charleston Southern. Okay, they'll win that game, but they're not beating the Gators. No, The Gators could win this game if we didn't have a quarterback to show up with. So FSU right now, just in a really tough situation. Like I said, 1-9. They're off the back of that 52-3 loss to Notre Dame. I don't know what anybody thought was going to happen when they saw that game on the schedule after watching the FSU football team go to 1-9 as a record. Notre Dame historically has always been a substantial college football team, right? Like they may not always be undefeated or a one-loss college football team, but they're always good. Right. So that's the standpoint from looking at that game and understanding it was going to be a blowout from the word go. I watched the game. I think I watched like the first 6 minutes. Once it was 14-0, I was done. I was done. I was like, all right, I don't need to finish this. There's no reason to watch this. If I want to watch a massacre, I could watch any scary movie ever and get the exact same result. Right. So realistically speaking, the Noles, even if they do win against Charleston Southern, who has essentially the same record. For the record, they are 1-10. If they do find a way to lose that game, it'll just be an all-time low for FSU. And I've said this during the last couple of shows, but I've never seen FSU like this in 30 years of my existence. 26 of them watching college football. I've never seen FSU look this bad ever. Bobby Bowden is somewhere just unhappy. Okay. He's unhappy. That's all I can tell you. But that's it for the Noles. Again, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on negativity. Next game for them again against Charleston Southern. Again, 1-10 Charleston Southern, but it doesn't matter at this point. FSU doesn't seem to be able to beat anybody. That game will be Saturday, November 23rd, 1:30 p.m. start time. A little awkward start time for that game, but I think that's because they probably wanted to adjust the time due to some of the nature of stuff that they were having going on that week. So just don't be surprised by that, but it's not 12 o'clock start time like the Gator game is. 1:30 start time, so it will end a little bit later as well. The Canes, Miami suffered the first loss of the season. They since got bumped down to number 11 because of it. They're 9-1 after that loss to Georgia Tech. Guys, Georgia Tech comes in rocking a 5-4 record, improved to 6-4, wins this game 28-23 ball game. Excuse me. I did watch the end of that game. Cam Ward just wasn't doing Cam Ward things. That's the only thing I can really tell you. There's not really like a big rhyme or reason as to why this game got out of hand. I mean, Georgia Tech did a great job running the football, which was something that we kind of thought could happen against Miami. But it's been the same thing for Miami since the late 1980s is run the ball at Miami. It's always been that way. You take away that late 90s, early 2000s Miami team, you run at Miami. That's always been their weakness. That still continues to be their weakness as long as you can run the ball. Of course, if you have no run game, I can't tell you to run the ball, but that's what Georgia Tech was able to do. They ran the ball very, very well against Miami, dominating time, not dominating time position, but dominating the position on the field, which allowed them to score at will when they needed to, including the walk-off victory touchdown that won them that ball game. Miami has shown a wrinkle that is kind of alarming right now when you think about where they're headed. So they will make the playoffs, right? Like that's without a question. They will make the playoffs. The question is, who are they supposed to beat if they can't stop the run? And because they couldn't stop a Georgia Tech run game, I have my reservations about them stopping any team in the top 10 right now, most of which all have great rushing attacks. I mean, look at Oregon, look at Georgia. Well, Georgia's a 50-50 ball game. I can't really say look at Georgia, but it's Georgia, right? Look at Ohio State, right? So there are a lot of teams there in the top 10 right now with decent rushing attacks, and I just don't see Miami being able to beat any of those teams. And I think this is where playing the ACC kind of hurts a little bit, because albeit the ACC is not the worst conference, it's just not the SEC. And because it's not, you just don't face that level of talent every week. And then when you lose like that, it really, really shuts down the momentum you guys had, especially when you're undefeated. But this is also something that's happened throughout Miami's history a lot of the time as well, where they win the first 5, 6, 7, 8 games, and then they finally drop one late in the season and they struggle the rest of the way. We'll see if Miami's going to be able to rebound from that. They have an easy one against Wake Forest next week. Wake Forest isn't necessarily playing really great football, so if they can rebound on that game before the playoffs, maybe they can get back on track. Cam Ward has to do Cam Ward things. He has to not throw interceptions, and he's got to play with a little bit of urgency when he realizes he's in a dogfight. Aside from that, coaching was pretty good. Defense was good outside for the most part from stopping the run. So again, I fully suspect that Miami wins this game against Wake Forest, but after a loss, you never know what happens. College football is all about momentum. I've always believed that, and I think that's still the case here for Miami. So good luck to Miami against Wake Forest. That game is going to be Saturday, November 23rd, 12 p.m., guys. Let's go ahead and get into the rest of what we have for this evening on the show, guys. So NBA Heat action, right? So Heat and Miami, both playing with some serious injuries at the moment. So the Miami Heat are playing without Jimmy Butler and what's that young man's name? I'm still trying to think about his name. In the meantime, between time, Jimmy Butler is playing. He missed his third game via injury. The record kind of reflects that Jimmy Butler is the ace for Miami. So without him, it's going to be really hard to get this team facilitated. Same thing with Paolo Banchero. We'll get into what's happening with him and his injury as well. He's been out actually for a little bit longer. I think 5 games he's been out. But Miami right now rocking a 5-7 record. They lose their game against the Pacers, who are rocking a 6-7 record, 119-110. Miles Turner went off for 34 points. When that happens, yeah, you're going to lose a game like that, especially when you don't have Jimmy Buckets there helping you guys out. Next game is going to be against the 76ers. That's tomorrow at 7:30 p.m. If you guys want to watch the Miami Heat basketball, that will probably be a good game to check out, because currently the 76ers are playing some of the worst basketball they've played over the last 6-7 years. They're rocking a 2-10 record. I don't know what's going on, but what I can tell you is that they're struggling, and I haven't seen them look this bad in a while. I definitely haven't seen them look this bad in a while. But like I said, for the most part, the big story for them are the injuries, mostly again with Jimmy Butler. But the sooner they get him back, the sooner they can get back to their winning ways. It just feels like without them, they're going to struggle. So, fingers crossed, that the team can get healthy again. But until that happens, 5-7 is not looking too good for them. Not to be outdone, the Magic are rocking an 8-6 record. They're slightly better, but they have a slightly better roster around them. KCP, Franz Wagner, and all those boys are just playing really phenomenal basketball, even with Paolo Banchero out. So I fully expect this team to continue to play complementary team basketball. This is something that Miami needs to take note of, because this is the difference between those two teams, and the difference between their records of positivity and negativity when you look at that 5-7 to 8-6. They beat the 76ers 98-86 in the last game they played. Again, 76ers rocking a 2-10 record, so not a very good team right now. That could change, but they're going to have to do some work before the All-Star break if they're going to get anywhere after into the postseason, I should say, and after the season is over. The next game for the Magic is going to be against the Suns. That's tomorrow at 9 p.m., guys. So you're going to have early game, late game for both Florida teams. Miami plays first 7:30 p.m. Then you're going to go over to 9 p.m. start time for the Orlando Magic versus the Phoenix Suns. Phoenix Suns rocking a 9-5 record. Not a bad record right now, but when you look at the West right now, it's insane to watch what these top 4 teams in the NFL, NBA are doing right now. You have the Cavaliers, who haven't lost yet. They're 14-0. You have OKC, who's playing tremendous basketball, just like they did last year. The best complementary team basketball being played in the West right now, followed by the Golden State Warriors. Steph Curry just seems like he's just getting younger and not older, which is so awkward when you look at his ability to shoot and how something like that you would think that would go down is actually getting better as he continues to play. So absolutely incredible what's going on there. The old man and LeBron James has the Lakers at 9-4, and then you go down the line a little bit and you can see where the Suns are at 9-5. So the West is very, very competitive right now. The East has 2 really, really good teams, and then a bunch of all right teams after that, with the Celtics and the Cavaliers rounding out 1 and 2 for the East. Paul Banchero still being out is going to be a struggle for them. As a result, Franz Wagner is becoming the leading scorer. He's going to have to continue to facilitate. Having KCP there helps out a lot. That guy is a dual threat on offense and defense, a great defensive player. He adds a lot of balance to this team that is becoming extremely successful. I think this team makes the playoffs again this year. I know it's early, but I just want to point out how much faith I have in the Orlando Magic right now. Dad, I know you're super happy. He loves his Orlando Magic. So that team is playing extremely well right now, and I hope that they continue to play well right now. As we continue to move on. And the sooner they get Paul Banchero back, the better they can basically just steamroll the rest of the East. This is a team that beat the Celtics a couple of times last year, also struggled against the Cavaliers last year, but did find a win against the Cavaliers last year, so they know they can do it. They just got to get healthy, and they maybe need one more piece. I would say one more true shooter and or two-way player even would solidify this team as one of the powerhouse teams in the East, and I think one of the best teams in all of basketball. So good job, Magic. Heat, got to do better. Injury shouldn't be an example of anything, because Paul Banchero, of course, is out for Orlando, and yet they're still seeming to find a way to ball. So, guys, no excuses. Got to get better. Got to play better. Got to play as a team. Eric Spoelstra is one of the best coaches in the NBA, and he's got to show it as well. So for the NHL, let's go ahead and breeze on through everything. I know I'm over on my time, but thank you guys for sticking with me through this period, and we're going to get you guys through the rest of the way through the show. But so for the NHL, the Bolts and the Panthers, both playing pretty good hockey. Of course, Panthers defending Stanley Cup champions. They sit atop the Atlantic, the same division that the Tampa Bay Bolts are playing in. Proud of both of these teams right now. With the Bolts obviously losing more than they picked up in the offseason this past year, it's good for them to be where they're at. They're rocking a 9-6 record right now. It easily could be worse. It's good enough for third in the Atlantic. If the playoffs started right now, I think they're the final team in the playoffs. It's super early again, but just for forward thinking, right? The Bolts are able to beat the Devils today, 4-0. Shutting out a good team like the Devils is not an easy thing to do. So it just shows that the Bolts still have a lot of firepower, a lot of ability to win games, and I'm super proud of them for being able to do that. The Devils are rocking a 12-7 record, one of the better records in the NHL right now. So knowing that the Bolts can put that together and find success is a monumental thing, but they're going to have to continue to do that moving forward. The next opportunity they're going to have to do that is against the Penguins. Penguins are, they're struggling right now. I'm struggling a little bit right now. That's okay, though. That'll change. But in the meantime, between time, that game is going to be Tuesday, November 19th at 7 p.m. start time. So that's going to be the early game. Yeah, that's the early game out of the two teams because both the Panthers and the Bolts are going to play on Tuesday. So just some forward thinking for that, guys. The Bolts game is going to start first. Panthers game is going to start after that. I don't know, man. Both these games are going to be kind of tough. I mean, and I say both these games are going to be kind of tough, obviously, just because right now the Bolts are on a 2-game win streak right now. They were on a 4-game losing streak before that. And right now you don't want to get trapped against the Penguins. You want to continue to ride that momentum and get the double-digit wins and then continue on from there. I think that they can, but we'll just have to wait and see right now, especially with the way that they've been playing. They got a little break before the next game, Monday, Tuesday start time. So 7 p.m. again, start time for that game against the Penguins after 2-game winning streak is try to make it to 3 and improve to 10 wins on the season. Bolts. For the Panthers, they lost to the Devils 6-2 in the last game they played. That was the day before the Devils played the Bolts. So I think that the Bolts got a little bit of help from Florida Panthers, taking a little knock off of them before that game. But so thank you to the Panthers for that. But they're rocking a 12-5 record, good enough for first place in the Atlantic. Like I said, after that loss against the Devils, they're going to have to return to action against the Jets. Jets rocking a 15-3 record right now. So this is, again, I think that's actually the best record in the NHL at the moment. Good luck, Panthers. You guys are going to have to put that Devils game behind you guys and just surge forward and find a way to find a W there. Again, that game is going to be November 19th, Tuesday, November 19th at 8 p.m. So you got 7 p.m. start time for the Bolts game, 8 p.m. start time for the Panthers game. I believe I have Spectrum, so you guys probably know which ones I'm probably going to get. I think I'm getting the Bolts game, but I don't think I get the Panthers game. We'll see what happens. I'll probably watch it on here and then have the Bolts game over there. I don't have any other sports on Tuesday because we have Monday Night Football, we have Thursday Night Football, and then we have college football Saturday, but nothing on Tuesday. So yeah, I should be able to catch both of those games, Lord willing, and I'll throw those on for a bird's eye view of what to expect from both of these teams moving forward. That's what's going on there in the NHL. Not a whole lot, again, still early in the season right now. Both these teams look to be in the exact same place they were to start the season last year for the most part. Panthers slightly worse than how they were when they started the season last year, but these are Stanley Cup defending champions. You know that they have a big target on their back and that a lot of teams are going to be coming to try to make a name off of a victory on the Florida Panthers, especially when you pay attention to how well both these teams have played over the last 5 years. So moving on over to the MLS, guys. Inter Miami got knocked out against Atlanta United. I don't think anybody saw this coming. I fully suspected Miami to actually take home the trophy this year. I obviously felt like they had the best team in the MLS, and unfortunately, Messi's 65er was just not good enough. They fall to Atlanta 3-2 in that game, effectively getting knocked out of the playoffs after recording one of the best records that we've seen in the MLS in a while. Kind of hurts a little bit. Messi is one of my favorite soccer players of all time. And I didn't see that coming. They played their tails off throughout the season. Unfortunately, when push came to shove, Atlanta wanted it more. Congratulations to Atlanta. My hat goes off to you You guys move forward to face Orlando, which is the only other point to make here is that Orlando will be playing against Atlanta United. That game is going to be Sunday, November 24th at 3:30 p.m. It's going to be a great game, guys. Orlando City comes off of knocking off Charlotte there in their first round. They move on to be able to face Atlanta. I go Orlando, guys. I don't know really what else to say at this point. We need them to bring it home. We don't want Inter Miami's loss to be for nothing. If it's going to be for something, let it be onto the greatness for Orlando, right? Like, I don't know really how else to say it. But having Miami knocked out kind of hurts. That's my favorite soccer team. So obviously I love both my teams, but Miami was the team that I had my money on, and unfortunately they got knocked out. So, but again, good job. Shout out to Atlanta. You guys played phenomenal. You guys edged out the best player in soccer at the moment. And hey, it is what it is. Good luck, Orlando, against Atlanta. You guys will need it. Atlanta's riding some serious positivity, some serious motivation and momentum after beating Miami. So we'll see what happens in that game. Obviously, winner is going to continue on to play for the trophy. And so we'll see what happens. But yeah, that's it, guys. That's what's going on in the world of sports, guys. I know we went a little over our normal time, but I thank you guys so much for keeping it locked here. I thank you guys so much for being here with me. Like I said, I know it was a rough show. It was a rough week. We're just trying to get back around, given everything that's been going on, especially with the family. So again, thank you guys for having it locked here. It was actually a pleasure, a big weight off my shoulders to be able to come before you guys today and share this information with you guys. I look forward to seeing you guys next week at the same time, every Sunday evening at 9 p.m. Next week's show will be a better show. I promise. I will do better. I will do better. And I will be here for you guys. In the meantime, between time, like I said before, we suffered a loss in the family. It was heartbreaking, but for me, I'm using it as a lesson to remind myself how important family is, and that's what my food for thought is for you guys this evening, guys. If you haven't made the phone call, if you haven't sent the text message, get in contact with your loved ones. Let them know that you love them, that you care, that you're there, even if they don't need you. It's just very important right now. We are in a crazy time to be alive here in the United States. Depending on your outlook on the planet, it's a crazy time to be alive in general. And all that we have, right? All that we have, most of us, is family. So, and even if you don't have family, there are people out there that care about you. I'm sure that there's somebody out there for everybody. Okay, and I believe in that personally. But I just felt like I needed to share that with everybody. Again, absolutely crazy week, but better weeks will come. Second half of the season, or second half of the season for the NFL and for college football is upon us. And let's try to ride that positivity with food, family, and football come Thanksgiving. I hope you guys have a safe and wonderful Thanksgiving week as we get ready to move into the rest of the end of the year. And it was, again, my pleasure to come to you guys with this information. My name has been Corey Pujols, your host. And as always, it is brought to you powered by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Until next week, you guys, peace, love, and happiness. Have a wonderful week. And I will see you next week.